Okay, so things that we wish we knew before we did the W trek.
Hey, Wendy.
Today we're going to talk about our time doing the W trek and our top tips for doing the trail.
Yeah, and there's a few of them. Some you've probably picked up from watching other people's videos, but hopefully a little bit more information in here for you as well.
So let's dive in. The W trek is a 70-kilometre 5-day hike in Torres Del Paine National Park. It's one of the most popular hikes in Patagonia due to its incredible views and relative ease to do self-guided. It's called the W trek due to the shape the trail makes through the park. I'm Alicia.
And I'm Michael.
And we're lovers get lost. So things that we wish we knew before we did the W trek. So we're each going to say 5. We haven't compared notes. So the first one I've got is the distances on the trails are much longer than all the maps and the trailheads say.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely.
So if you've watched our videos already, you'll know this.
Oh, here's the sign. So we've only gone 0.5.
Basically, it kind of seems like the distances on all the maps, all the trailheads are miles, not kilometres. They're clearly labelled kilometres, but comparing to our devices and when talking to all the other hikers that we met along the way, the distances are well understated. So I wish I knew that going in. Mostly so that we could have trained for longer distances. So we thought that we were going in for a 70-kilometre hike. That's how long the W trek is supposedly supposed to be. And it ended up being about 111 kilometres. So obviously that's quite significantly more. And I think if we had have known that going in, well, hopefully it wouldn't have scared us off, but we definitely would have done more training.
But maybe it was just a marathon of taking photos.
Maybe.
Looking at
Maybe
views coming back from the trail.
An extra 40 kilometres.
Going up to Grey, I mean, we had a lot of stops for photos. Maybe that's where a bunch of it came from.
Yeah, and like that's definitely some of it. But the fact that we didn't even get up to the top of Britannica.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
I've got that later. So, yeah.
Okay, so what's your first one?
You watch all the videos on YouTube, and the GoPro does a good job at flattening out the trail. It's not that flat. There's definitely a lot more rocks and bits and pieces. I think, aside from going up to the towers, going up to Grey was probably the steepest set of inclines that we had.
The steepest section that wasn't like to a lookout.
Yeah, it obviously just kept on going up. There was like a little bit of like tiny bouldering or bits and pieces, which I'm not stable.
Neither are us are stable.
I'm like a turtle upside down with my legs in the air. If you're prepping before you go, get some inclines in, whether that's at the gym or you're just doing some local hikes. There's a bit more to it than I guess what the GoPro tells you in a lot of the videos. Even the ones that, that we put together.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Editing the videos, I was like, oh, this looks flat. It definitely was not flat.
Excellent. Just like everybody else's. Excellent.
Okay, my second tip is pack as light as possible. And it's kind of two-pronged. Think about where and when you can leave your big bag behind. We had day bags with us that we had planned to use for our treks to the Britannica or the French Valley Lookout and the towers. But in hindsight, we definitely could have left a lot of stuff at Pane Grande when we got off the catamaran. Because on the first day, when you go from Pane Grande to Grey campsite, you inevitably end up back at Pane Grande on the second day. So I think if we had have thought about that, we could have left a bunch of our food, the clothes, like other stuff that we weren't going to need for that one night. And that would have made the hike up to Grey campsite much easier. And I also think that day, and maybe just because it was the first day, that was one of the hardest days.
Yeah, the whole week's of food to begin with. It would have been nice just to take one day up there.
The other thing about packing as light as possible, and maybe we'll do a packing video at some point, but make sure your bag is comfortable. Even if you have the most comfortable bag, after hiking for 8 hours, trudging up steep inclines, it's gonna be uncomfortable. It's like imperative that you start off at least being as comfortable as you possibly can.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the bags we had were more of backpacking, not necessarily trail bags or
like hostel backpacking, not trail backpacking.
They opened from the top.
But they, at the end of the day, they did the job, and they were great for the rest of our trip, which we haven't shared in videos yet. But when we weren't actually camping, they were perfect. What's your second one?
So mine was exactly the same, but I'll just further it a little bit. Just say you don't need as much stuff as you think.
We absolutely can't wait to get rid of these huge bags. Packed way too much stuff.
I mean, everybody says that when you go traveling.
The
more space you've got, the more stuff that you'll put in your bag. But also, if you're staying at like the same place afterwards, you can probably organise with your hostel to actually leave some stuff behind.
Yes. Yeah, that's a really good one.
So don't bring everything if you don't need to have it with you. So things like you might have clothes for warmer climates. Like it's not something that you kind of need to take on the hike. Second pairs of shoes.
Jeans.
Yeah, stuff like that. So you can significantly lower your weight there. Be aware when you do that, you only take what you actually really need for it. And you will see in a lot of the videos that people say, hey, so much downtime, could read and do bits and pieces. Great.
That wasn't us.
Yeah, great if you're super fast. You can probably tell by the videos our pace wasn't lightning fast.
No.
So I brought like my iPad along and stuff like that.
I brought a book.
I never opened it once. I don't think Alicia opened her book once.
I definitely didn't.
We kind of got to the campsite, ate dinner, had a shower, and then just
basically died.
Yeah, pretty much until the next morning. So.
How are you feeling like? God to bloody our life choices, right?
Yes. So just manage what you're taking.
Yeah.
And if you can, leave it with your hostel to pick up after the trip. So if you don't need it, why take it on 111 Ks?
Yeah. And also we knew that going in, so we had planned that. We made sure that we had a bag that we were happy to leave. And we had read that you have to be really careful about not leaving valuables in the hostel as well. But actually where we stayed, it was a completely locked room, and the manager of the hostel, who was awesome, but he made sure that room was locked and it was very secure. Yeah. So in hindsight, I probably would have left my iPad and been completely comfortable knowing that that's a locked room that no one else can access anyway.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll have the link to the hostel in the show notes as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was an awesome place to stay. We really enjoyed the few days we had before and the few days hobbling around afterwards from that hostel. And Diego is such an awesome person. I had a great time. And he's got a dog there.
Called Almendra.
Yeah, Almendra. So Almond loves the couch.
I did English.
Yeah, loves a good pat and a good snuggle.
Maybe we'll put in a picture of Almendra.
Yeah, we do have a
She's
few
gorgeous.
pictures of her as well. So.
Okay, so my third one is proper hiking boots are a must. Now, this one is maybe slightly controversial. I know that trail runners have gotten way better over the years and lots of people only hike in trail runners, which is awesome. But I think hiking boots are essential. I know it's really hard if you're a full-time traveler and you're carrying around everything that you possibly own. Hiking boots maybe aren't in that list.
The last thing we need is both of us falling over. Oh my god, oh my god. Oh my god. My feet are all wet.
But I would say, for me, I don't think I could have made it without hiking boots.
Yeah, especially when they're not necessarily slippery, and they definitely were because I went flying around, but when there were uneven surfaces, I feel like you kind of felt a little bit more secure in your hiking boots.
Yeah, definitely.
To go through. But also because the weather it just changes constantly, there's like muddy patches, there's streams and bits and pieces you're going through. I would probably find it a challenge after the fourth day of having wet shoes in a row. As we said in the earlier videos, we hadn't really done overnight hiking before we did this one as well.
Yeah.
Maybe you adjust to it, but I enjoyed taking the boots. They took a bit more space, but I thought it was great.
Yeah, me too. And actually, once we had got there and the distances were so much longer, probably woefully underprepared we were, having the boots probably saved us. The trails can be really, really steep. So there are sections where you are basically scrambling and getting yourself over boulders, which I just couldn't imagine being able to do in trail runners. But also there's gravel, there's mud, there's rocks, there's streams to cross, and there's streams that you definitely can't go around. You know, some of them you literally had to go through. That stream is really wide and you're just gonna have to trudge through it.
And I mean, we had great conditions, as you've seen from the videos, but you know, there still were large mud patches where I went flying into bushes as I slipped, and you know, things like that. And at least I could kind of just rinse my boots off at the next stream.
And for reference, we were there in March of 2023, so March this year, and we were incredibly lucky with the conditions. But even so, I think without hiking boots, I wouldn't have made it to the end.
So also on the shoe front, bringing a pair of thongs, jandals.
Jandals?
What other words? I guess thongs have got different connotations wherever we are.
Flip-flops?
Yeah, flip-flops. Just, you know, after having your boots on for 12, 14 hours a day, once you take them off, you're not going to want to pop them back on.
You really don't want to put them back on. Yeah.
And then the showers are very busy, so they're quite wet, and you're walking through, you know, just nature as you're coming back. So,
yeah, like from the showers to your campsite, or from your tent to the kitchen, or, you know, inevitably like me, if I need to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, if I had to put my hiking boots on, that would have been not nice.
And they take up like no space. Well, relatively little space.
Yeah.
So your feet are clean by the time you get back to the tent, and your feet have actually had a chance to recover from the day's hike before you try to put your boots on again the next day. So make sure you bring a pair.
So my fourth tip is the wind is fierce. Now, we did know that going in. That's the reputation. Patagonia is windy. It can come out of nowhere, but that reputation is entirely accurate. And I think I just hadn't really grasped about how strong wind can actually be. As in, there are sections of the trail where it felt like you could just lean into the wind and it would hold you up.
Where did you think were the windiest parts?
I think the windiest parts for us were on day one.
Hands down, going to Grey, when you get to the top before you descend and you actually see Largo Grey for the first time, that was the windiest of the whole trip.
There's like a pass that you go through, and like Michael actually fell over in this wind. So you fell over, I nearly lost my beanie. It was like chaos, but it was so windy that I actually couldn't even communicate, because I couldn't hear you and you couldn't hear me.
You couldn't unless you're walking side by side.
So windy. Yeah. So even though we knew it was windy, it is honestly like next level. But the other really windy pass, when you're going from Cernos to Chilerno, and there is a sign warning you that it's really windy. And so I took my hat off and secured it to me. And for a little bit, I was like, this is not windy. And then we literally turned a corner and it was like that. But I don't think it felt as bad as day one, because we had seen that sign, the warning sign. So maybe if there was a sign on day one, it wouldn't have been as bad.
What was interesting, you notice as well when you go down the catamaran, that just randomly you can feel the wind picking up and you can see it like push across the lake.
Yeah.
And then it just hits and then it's gone.
Oh yeah, well actually that reminds me, because on day three, the wind was like crazy. Yeah. Once you're going from the French Valley to Cernos, you get to this section that's like a pebbly beach, and then the trail like snakes in a little bit before you get to actually Chilerno campsite, and that section is wild. So it will be like completely, you know, calm, and then a gust of wind will literally come out of nowhere, and your first warning sign is seeing the water in the lake move. We have a picture at the Pebble Beach where the water is so calm, it's like tranquil. And then literally a few seconds later, I have a picture of Michael like with a really hilarious face on, because the wind has just come, and all of a sudden it looks like this beach is wild with waves, so it just changes in an instant.
I guess the strongest part of that I thought was there's a part where you try to cross a river and there's a bit of a gap and you've kind of got to like jump.
Yes.
And as you're doing that,
with a big bag on, Michael.
Yeah, but as the wind comes through, you're like, oh, I really hope it doesn't come through as I'm trying to like
just as I've like jumped. What's your third one?
So this is my fourth. One. If you're on a bit of a budget, really look at bringing a camping stove and dehydrated meals. Between us over the 5 days.
5 days.
Yeah.
Four like dinners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, we obviously brought all of our food with us, and we just supplemented with a few snacks here and there. But yeah, we paid off the price of like our jet boil and all of our dehydrated meals.
Probably in the first day.
So if you're on a bit of a budget, just bring that stuff across. And yeah, it was great. It's much cheaper than paying the price of full board. So if you're trying to save a bit of money, potentially look at doing something like that.
Yeah, because at some of the campsites to add on full board was $100 USD per person. So that is a lot of money. That is much more than we were paying for the actual campsite. But I would say if you're struggling with the thought of carrying a stove, then there is boiling water at all of the W campsites that we stayed at. I can't say on Francis for sure because we didn't actually go in there, but at all of the campsites we went to, there was free boiling water. So that is something to keep in mind.
And you could pick up other things, those little counters, but really we just made sure we had dehydrated meals for each of us, and we had a morning coffee in sachets and some collapsible mugs. And it worked perfectly.
It did. The other thing to note on that though is that the hiking dehydrated meals are quite hard to get in Puerto Natales. So we knew that going in, so we were glad that we knew that and we brought them with us. And we did see a few in Puerto Natales, but they were really expensive. So it was actually much cheaper to buy them here, we live in Australia, and bring them with us than to pay, I think it was like $28 or $30 per serve in Puerto Natales.
We didn't have any problems with mice either, and I know that can be a problem.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Other people have kind of said that. We were lucky we didn't. We did pick up some scent-proof bags.
Supposedly odor-proof bags.
So, yeah, supposedly. But hey, I mean, it didn't happen.
They did the trick, so we didn't have any.
So that's right.
Any little furry.
No holes in our bags and no half-eaten bits and pieces as we went. So
yeah, and I was horrified that might happen to us. So we were pretty good at sealing off our food, keeping it separate, putting it in a dry bag.
It worked. So
it worked well. Yeah. My final tip might make you laugh, but it is don't drink the water at the refugios. Now, the reason is the glacier water tastes so much better. Yeah. Honestly.
But if you're thirsty, drink the water at refugios.
Okay, but plan not to. What I would say is, as you're approaching a campsite, fill up your water bottle with glacier water. It is everywhere. There's streams everywhere. And the glacier water tastes like the best water I have ever tasted.
Like nothing.
There's actually zero flavor. It's crisp. It's amazing. Okay, so I didn't realize this on the first day, and we drank the water at Grey, and it's water. It's fine. You're thirsty, you drink it. But when you're hiking, you need to increase your water intake, and the water at Grey did not taste very good. I found it difficult to drink.
I mean, as well we did bring one of those UV steri pens with us. Some people drink it straight and I think there's no problems. And I remember seeing this earlier on in the year that some people are getting a bit of a stomach bug from having the water.
So it is optional to sterilize your water. We did on the trail, as Michael said, we took one of the steri pens. There's a few different ways you can do it. So I would recommend doing that. But definitely drink the glacier water. It is amazing.
If you're going to use a steri pen as well, just make sure you have a bottle with a large mouth on it. Just your standard water bottles, their necks are probably a little bit too small.
Yeah. So just test that out before you go.
Yeah.
What's your last tip?
You know that it is going to be from Pane Grande, that's going to be a long day.
To the French Valley, you mean?
Yeah, and to where your campsite is that night. It's going to be a big day. And if you want to make it all the way through to Botanica, maybe you need to pop an extra day in there. It's 21 kilometers times by 1.6 maybe. It's a fair bit longer. I think it was maybe, so we left before sunrise. It was just starting to come before we hit on the trail. Just enough light that we didn't need the headlamps as we left. Even so, it's a long day. We went into the French Valley, but we had to make the decision that we can't go much further if we want to try to get into camp at night. And hopping across that stream with the backpack in pitch black wouldn't have been
us.
Good.
And you can see when we arrive at Chileno, it is still light. So maybe we had another 20 minutes or so of hiking.
Not enough to do anything.
Absolutely not. And we were broken. I didn't even put my face on camera in that video because honestly, just saying the words that we had made it, I was just ready to flop.
We made it. Oh my God, that last stretch was horrible.
It was
tough.
I mean, you might be really quick. So you might be able to do it.
If you're very experienced and super fit, then you can definitely do it in one day. But yeah, I agree with you. I will say the first section of that day, of day 3, when you're leaving Pane Grande to Italiano, was maybe my favorite part of the actual trail, not being a lookout, because you're weaving along the shoreline and there's like little waterfalls everywhere. Honestly, it was stunning. It was amazing.
And maybe that's why it did take us a bit longer.
Maybe. I was just constantly stopping and taking photos.
And that's probably the main section without rocks.
Yes.
Like that part of the path
rocks.
it was a very kind of cruisy walk through there.
The general recommendation is to do the W Trek in 5 days. Some people do it in 4 days. That blows my mind. Like, how do you actually do it in 4 days? Because physically we could not do that. Yeah. We could barely do it in 5.
But pretty much run.
Yeah. So I think we would have benefited from a like shorter day where we could probably fully recover our bodies before having to do another really big day. Ultimately, would I do it again? Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, I think I have like a longer term goal to go back and do the O Trek and just see if I can do it.
Yeah, which I think is fine. I think when you're on it, you're going, oh, I don't know if I would be able to do this again. But
the beauty of time.
You look back over it and you're like, it wasn't that bad. Except the rocks. There's a lot more rocks and it's a lot more steep.
There's a lot of rocks. There's so many rocks. So that's our 5 tips.
Yep.
Thanks so much for watching and stay tuned for the rest of our South America series. If you have a question about the trail that we didn't answer, leave a comment down below and we'll get back to you. But until then, keep exploring.